At UFC 300, the BMF title is on the line between the current holder, Justin Gaethje, and the man who many thought would always be competing for this belt at some point in his career, Max Holloway. Up at lightweight, the two guys will compete across 5 rounds in what I believe is the third fight on the main card. It may be the co-main event. The UFC haven't actually been too clear on that, but regardless of when it is on the card, I think we're all happy that we're seeing it. I've got an article coming out on MMASucka this week about how both guys are potentially giving up an opportunity to fight for the belt in their weight class. Justin Gaethje at lightweight, Max Holloway a natural featherweight, in order to put on an entertaining fight for the fans, and that is exactly what I'm anticipating this fight is. We're going to have a look at a few of the stats, and there's something that I really want to highlight, and I'm going to give a really short 5-minute technical breakdown and how I think this fight's going to go. What I'll say straight off the bat is that I'm anticipating potentially a fight of the year contender, and let's just hope that's what we get at UFC 300. So if I share my screen here, we can see both men have a similar record. Justin Gaethje 25-4, Max Holloway 25-7. The average fight time for Holloway is 15 minutes and 56 seconds. Gaethje 9 minutes and 46 seconds. Both men are 5'11". Justin Gaethje has a 1-inch reach advantage, but I don't imagine that will make too much of a difference in this fight. Both men are orthodox and they're a similar age. Gaethje 3 years older than Holloway. This is interesting, this sort of section here. 155-pound, the natural weight class for Justin Gaethje. 145-pound, the natural weight class, and the weight class that we've seen Max Holloway compete in more often than not. What I will say is that we've seen Max Holloway up at lightweight once in his UFC career, and I'll go on to talk about that a little bit later on in the video, but it didn't go well for him. The main thing that I wanted to really discuss in sort of this section, while we're looking at the stats behind both guys here. Significant strikes landed. Significant strikes landed per minute. Justin Gaethje 7.35, Max Holloway 7.17. Now we know that they're going to be, slightly skewed for Max Holloway because of that Calvin Kattar fight, but let that not take away from the fact that he's one of the most entertaining, one of the most active, one of the most volume strikers on the roster today. Something else I also wanted to bring into this, which I think is going to be, to be honest, I think this is probably going to be the biggest sort of aspect of it, as it were, is we've got this for Justin Gaethje, 7.5 strikes absorbed per minute. Like I said, Max Holloway is one of the most active strikers, and Max Holloway is 4.75. Max Holloway is one of the most accurate and volume-heavy strikers in the UFC today, whether that be at featherweight, and I think he'll carry that volume into lightweight. For Justin Gaethje to absorb so many significant strikes, granted, that was, these stats for Gaethje are kind of skewed from his early days of brawling and going to war with everyone he's faced. But even against Dustin Poirier, the fight lasted 6 minutes, and he absorbed 27 significant strikes. Moving on to talk a little bit about a sort of more technical breakdown, how I think this fight's going to go. I think it's going to be the power punching of Justin Gaethje against the volume of Max Holloway. Holloway is not known as a knockout puncher, despite the fact that he finished his last fight via knockout. That was against a very old, a very weathered, a very battle-hardened Chan Sung Jung. Prior to that, his most recent knockout prior to the Chan Sung Jung one in August of last year was Brian Ortega in 2018. And as we know, he just battered Brian Ortega in that one. After that, he went to decision with Edgar, 2 losses to Volkanovski, 2 wins, 1 against Calvin Kattar, which he absolutely battered Calvin Kattar in, and 1 against Yair Rodriguez. Another loss against Alexander Volkanovski, and then that 5-round war with Arnold Allen. Like I said, he's a volume striker. He's very accurate with his strikes, and he picks really good strikes. His jab is what I think could potentially dictate this fight. But what he does like to do is put 2 to 3 maybe even four sort of jabs before he comes in with the right hand. He has to be careful about doing this against Gaethje because Gaethje is a power striker. We've seen it time and time again in his UFC career. We saw it last time out against Dustin Poirier. That head kick separated Poirier from consciousness the second that it landed. We saw it against Michael Chandler. He absolutely battered Michael Chandler in that absolute war. We saw it against Charles Oliveira. He dropped Charles Oliveira before being finished himself. We saw the leg kicking ability. We see it in every fight. We saw it in particular against Eddie Alvarez. And I also, you know, Khabib's come out and said that he was one or two kicks away from, you know, potentially losing his belt on that occasion. The leg kicks, I think, are going to play a massive part in this, but I'll go on to talk about that later. Like I said, Max Holloway likes to put 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 jabs together to really find that range to almost follow his opponent as they're backing up before he either lands the right hand or before he backs off and and resets. Justin Gaethje, we've seen him look to counter by swinging for the fences. So Max Holloway has to be careful that he doesn't accentuate the combinations for too long, but he also has to make sure that he's not just putting one or two jabs out there and staying in range. Because as we've seen from Justin Gaethje, like I said, he swings for the fences almost sometimes with every shot that he throws. We've seen him before, knock himself off balance as a result of swinging for the fences. I think that was against Charles Oliveira, but I'll double check. I need to double check that. For me, we've seen Max Holloway up at lightweight, and we've seen the damage that Dustin Poirier did to Max Holloway at lightweight. Dustin Poirier is a good boxer, very good boxer. He holds a reasonable amount of power, but he's not notorious for his sort of one-punch knockout power like Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje went on that run where he knocked out James Vick, he knocked out Edson Barboza, he knocked out Donald Cerrone, and then he knocked out after battering Tony Ferguson across 5 rounds. That's something Max Holloway really has to be aware of. But I think the first time that Max Holloway went up to lightweight, he didn't do it properly. He kind of just didn't cut weight. This time, I feel that he's put on the size to cut weight down to 155, do it better. He's gonna have more muscular frame. Don't think that'll take away from his cardio. Cardio's never been an issue for Max, but I do think that Gaethje is definitely going to have a power advantage in this one. Size advantage, again, I'd probably give it to Gaethje, but not massively. I don't think it's going to be a massive size advantage. Like I said, both men are 5'11", and Gaethje holds a 1-inch reach advantage. But what I think will play an absolutely huge part in this is the leg kicking ability of Justin Gaethje. Now, we saw when Max Holloway faced Alexander Volkanovski for the first time. I think, yeah, in their first fight, 75 leg kicks were landed by Volkanovski, and it did hinder the movement of Max Holloway, something that he prides himself on, that we know is elite, his ability to just get out of the way of a shot and come back. 75 leg kicks landed by Alexander Volkanovski in their first fight. In their second fight, 67 leg kicks. And in the trilogy fight, it was just 21 leg kicks landed. But that is going to be something that Max Holloway has to have addressed in training. We've seen on his YouTube channel, on his personal YouTube channel, that he is sparring, something that he is famously not done an awful lot of before fights, in the past. How much is that going to, improve his timing? Because he is also quite a slow starter, and I don't think you can be a slow starter against Justin Gaethje. But it's the leg kicks of Justin Gaethje. If he manages to land them, if Max Holloway hasn't adjusted that sort of element of his game, and the thing is with Gaethje, he can land the leg kicks in such a tight, he can walk, he can cover up, walk an opponent down, and land leg kicks in such a tight area that you don't really see them coming. You don't have time to move out of the way of them, and unless you check them, they're landing flush. I think this is going to be sort of Bull versus the Matador. Not to say that Justin Gaethje is going to go in there gung ho and just look to knock Max Holloway out with one single shot. I don't think that's the case, but I think it's going to be a phenomenal fight. Who am I picking? I really don't. No, I'm very much on the fence about this one. I'll give you my official pick of Max Holloway by decision or Justin Gaethje by third or fourth round knockout. I'm really not sure on this one, but what I can guarantee is that we're going to have an absolute banger of a fight. I cannot wait for it, guys. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time.